A little while ago, I made a video about the worst episode of My Little Pony according to IMDb. Now, I asked you guys after that video in a community post what I should make a video on next, and you guys decided that I should make one about my favorite My Little Pony episode. And after much debate, I settled upon To Where and Back Again. Now, this is a two-parter, which feels like a little bit of a cheat to a favorite episode, because a favorite episode should be just one episode, but there's so many two-parters, and I love all of the two-parters. The two-parters are usually some of the best episodes in the series, at least according to my opinion. But if you guys want a different answer, I could go with Discordant Harmony, which is a single 22-minute episode, and it's about Fluttershy and Discord and stuff like that. If you guys want to see a video about that, let me know in the comments below. But for now, I'm going to talk about To Where and Back Again Part 1 and Part 2. So starting off with Part 1, the Stinger. The Stinger, if you guys don't know, is basically the thing you see right before the intro starts. And it's pretty good. I think they did a really good job with the Stinger in this episode, which is a weird thing to say, but they have the setup, you know, they get the mail, Derpy's there, which is cool, and everything like that. It's always nice to see Derpy appear. Starlight gets a letter. It's an invite to her village. They're doing some kind of festival at her village, and it's like, oh shit, I don't know if I want to go to this, because last time I was there, I enslaved everybody, and I know I apologized, but goodness gracious, what if they actually didn't move on? Her valid fear here is great. This is very realistic, so to speak. This is definitely something that I think some people probably have been through before in real life. Maybe not to the same scale. I mean, surely they didn't enslave an entire village, but there's plenty of people out there that have done things before in the past and got forgiveness and have always had it in the back of their mind that they didn't actually get forgiveness, if that makes sense. So her fears here are valid, and it's great to see. She's worried about this, and we get the intro, and when we cut back to the show, Starlight is in her village. She talks to them, and they're mean towards her. They're mean-spirited towards her, and as an audience, you're thinking, oh shit, this is crazy. They actually don't like her. And then, boom. Big reveal, it's actually a dream, which, sure enough, that probably was realistic enough to believe that was going to happen, you know, it's not too big of a twist, but I think the way they did this is actually really good, because if they had just went straight from, you know, receiving the letter to straight to her being there, I think people would have been able to conclude that something is up about this, you know, right away. However, by having that intro in between, they kind of separate the time there, so we technically are fair to assume that a lot of time has passed and she's made it to the village or something to that effect, right? It makes sense, but it's not what happened. It was a dream. So she comes to her friends and she talks to them and tries to get advice and stuff like that. She talks to her friends. It's kind of like a nice Discord call almost. I feel like some of us have been in that situation too, where we're seeking advice. We're struggling with this situation that we're in, or a situation that we know about or something like that. And so we get on a Discord call with a bunch of our friends and we talk about the situation and what to do. You know, you get advice from your friends. This is a very common thing. A lot of people go through it. And this really does kind of feel like, you know, one of those situations. The way it's written is really realistic. I feel like every character is, you know, in character. They're nice about it. They're, you know, I think there's like a joke or two in there or something, but it's realistic, you know. Twilight just suggests that she should take a friend, obviously insinuating that she should take herself. But of course, just like before in the past, Starlight chooses Trixie instead, and so they go, and then they get there, and it's the complete opposite of what she dreamt about, a complete opposite of what she feared, which is that the people there actually really love her. They actually really did forgive her, and they want her to, you know, make decisions on this, and lead this, and judge this, and everything like that. It's too much for her, so she leaves. But this is where I want to talk about why did they forgive her? Like, let's be real for a second. Why did the Equal Town forgive Starlight? We didn't even really get to see the apology that well. I think it was in a montage in the episode where Starlight reforms, you know, where she's defeated. I think they have that whole song, and in the montage, she goes there, and there's like a forgiveness thing or something like that, but you don't actually see what happened. Like, you don't see what was said, you don't see what happened. At least I don't remember that. I just remember them, like, showing up, and the song is still going, and they, like, shake hands or something, or I guess shake hooves, and then that's it. But realistically, why did they forgive her so easily? Like, they were literally enslaved, basically, right? That tangent aside, I could probably make a whole video just talking about that and Starlight's whole weird situation and everything like that. But today we're focused on these 2 episodes. She goes back to the village. She goes back to Ponyville, and she meets Pinkie Pie, which is weird. And already, even though she knows Pinkie Pie is really weird, already Starlight is deducing that something is up, that something is wrong, something isn't quite right here. And then she meets some more of the main 6, and she's like, yeah, something is definitely up. And then she goes to the castle to talk to Twilight about what happened and this worry she has about the other friends. And then Spike is there. He's acting super weird. And then finally she meets Twilight, and she also acts kind of weird. Not as weird as the others, but still a little bit weird. And so at this point, Starlight is like, something is up, but I guess it's fine. I don't know. Maybe they're stressed about something. And so she just goes back to her room to sleep because time passes here again. And this is where I want to pause again. How the heck, or why the heck, didn't the changelings decide to capture Starlight? Queen Chrysalis in the second part says that Starlight isn't worth taking. Twilight's pupil isn't worth taking when I'm trying to take over the world. That's just ridiculous. That's just flawed logic on Queen Chrysalis's part, which is totally fine, I guess, because Queen Chrysalis really just isn't that smart to begin with. But, well, I guess you say that, but she has come up with some pretty good plans to take over the world. But it's really weird that they didn't take her for that reason, but also because she lives in the castle. She's gonna eventually get wise to what's happening and try to do something about it. I don't know, it just feels weird they didn't go after Starlight. But that tangent aside, Starlight goes to sleep. She has a nightmare. Luna warns her about the changelings, and so she wakes up. She leaves the castle to go to Trixie. She actually, and this is something else that happens throughout these 2 episodes, Starlight is very powerful. She shows off a lot of magic and a lot of smarts in this episode. Instead of just like leaving through the front door, you know, it is the middle of the night, so she doesn't want to just wake up, you know, Twilight and the others, because she's already thinking like, these are probably also changelings. I need to sneak out of here. I don't need to just leave. So she uses her magic to make herself fly, which we haven't seen her do in a while, I don't think. And then she goes to Trixie. And while she's at Trixie, she has to then figure out if Trixie is also a changeling or not. She isn't just stupid. She isn't just blindly believing Trixie is Trixie. She does something to make sure that Trixie is who she says she is. So she's being really careful. She uses this flight magic. Very interesting there. They figure out that that's actually her. They go into the castle where she uses a couple of more really interesting things. Starlight uses a invisibility spell, which is really cool. And then later when they go back outside, she uses a silence bubble on Trixie, so she isn't just screaming and alerting, you know, the changelings in the town to where they're at. You know, a lot of cool things here. Starlight uses a lot of magic and a lot of really powerful magic, a lot of interesting stuff, and she's smart about it too. She's also being super careful about everything. Like, you know, she figures out Trixie is who she says she is, and then Thorax appears and she's like, okay, I need to make sure you're you, and then Thorax says that he is he. You know, they prove that, and then Discord appears and she's like, well, we got to prove that it's you, even though you did something that doesn't seem possible, but still we're gonna need to prove that that's you. And then he proves that's him as well. And so she's just being extremely careful and extremely smart in these 2 episodes, and I like that about Starlight. Starlight is really cool in this episode and in the second part as well. But pretty much after this, they deduce that the changeling hive is where everyone has been taken, and they need to do something to get there to break them out. Discord snaps his finger, teleports them there, but it isn't quite all the way in the changeling kingdom because there is a throne that disables all magic within the area, and so they can't use magic to get inside. This sets up the perfect stakes and the perfect rules for the second part of the episode. Basically, anyone in the world that could possibly do anything about the changeling situation is already captured, except for Starlight, Trixie, Discord, and Thorax. This is a great assortment of characters, maybe minus Thorax. The other 3 characters are my absolute favorite characters in this series. They're some of the best, and later in the episode and throughout the episode, you really get to get a really cool chemistry between these 4 characters. Discord and Trixie, they make an excellent duo. They're bickering and everything about them too, it just clicks. It just works. They're a perfect duo in this episode. They're funny. It's just fun. It's just a lot of fun. These 2 characters interacting is great. Like I said, the rules are set, obviously, so Discord doesn't just snap his fingers and solves everything. It's great. As they go there, Starlight, again being smart, decides, hey, we need some kind of code word, so if we get separated or if somebody pretends to be you, we'll know it's actually you, so we need some kind of code word. And they figure it out pretty quickly, a good code word being Klutzy Draconiquus, which is really cool, very interesting, and it's like not something somebody's just going to randomly say. This is cool because, again, Starlight showing how smart she is. I feel like a lot of other shows out there, or a lot of other characters out out there would just not do this. They would just skip this step completely, and then it would be a whole situation where somebody got replaced with somebody else, and then they get betrayed at the end because they got swapped or something. It would be a whole deal. I feel like stuff like this has happened before in plenty of other media, and it always goes, we didn't do a code word. You know what I'm saying? Kudos to the writers here too, because again, this is something that a lot of other people and other shows just don't do. If there's imposters, we don't need no code word. Well, I'll know it's you, you know, deep down, I'll know it's you. It's stupid. Anyway, like I said, she's also able to deduce, you know, that something's wrong, that there's something weird about, you know, her friends and some of the other people that she interacts with there. She's being super careful, you know, asking like, hey, how do I know it's you, before she brings them onto the crew, you know, all that other stuff. Just great stuff there. She's being really smart and really careful. They do a really good job at separating everybody, by the way, too. Trixie sacrifices herself. Discord, he basically sacrifices himself in a way. He distracts everyone so that they can get away. It's just great. Even though Discord didn't have all of his wacky chaos magic and everything like that, he was still a great character and did some really cool stuff here. Trixie also got to show off her smoke bombs and her illusion magic and stuff like that, getting to really shine. I think that's one of the things I love about this episode. It has 3 of my absolute favorite characters in it, and every single one of them gets to shine. They all get to have their really cool moment where, like, you know, Trixie is able to use her illusions to escape and help everybody, you know. Let's see, Discord, he gets to show off how wacky he is and stuff like that. He gets to show that he isn't too stupid either when, you know, he sees Fluttershy and everything like that. You know, just every character gets something cool for themselves. Even Thorax and Starlight both get something really cool towards the end of the episode as well, which I guess I can say next, because as everyone gets separated, it comes down to between Starlight and Thorax. They're running towards the throne, and then we cut to Starlight getting captured. Basically, she gets there, and the changelings, they all surround her. She gets captured, and then boom, big reveal, it's actually Thorax. That's right, it was Thorax all along. And I wouldn't be surprised, they didn't really do this, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was Starlight's plan to have Thorax pretend to be Starlight so that she can sneak past them and try to destroy the throne, because we pan over and Starlight is just whacking the throne with a rock, which is absolutely hilarious and very ineffective. But I think this was really cool. This was a great little thing. It was basically impossible for the audience to know that that wasn't her until it was revealed, which is really cool, since it wasn't like a really big reveal. Like, if it had been that way the whole episode, that would have been ridiculous. But it's a nice little twist there at the end. It felt really cool. Again, showing off how smart Starlight is and everything like that. And then it doesn't necessarily end like the way you think it does. Like, it ends with friendship. It ends with love, really, more than friendship, which is fitting considering it's changelings and they feed off of love. But it wasn't just like, hey, we can all be friends, and then they like join hands or whatever, and then the big bad guy explodes or whatever. There is an explosion, but the way they do it, I think, works a little bit better than they have in previous episodes. Like, in previous episodes, it's like, oh, we have the elements of harmony. We're a bunch of friends, which means we're more powerful than you, even though you have all the magic in the world, you know, that kind of thing. But this situation, they don't have any magic. All they have is love, and I guess friendship to an extent. Thorax starts getting all of his love taken out of him. Starlight, again, showing off how smart she is, realizing that if he gives all of his love to her, it'll cause a situation to, you know, make him evolve and they basically be okay, basically. Like, I guess maybe she didn't know exactly what would happen, but you could tell based off of her look and how she says give her all of it, that she figured out that something big would happen if he did so, and so he did, and it defeated Queen Chrysalis. It threw her to the throne, knocked her out, basically, and then Starlight gets the chance to tell everybody what happens when you give love instead of taking it. She basically tells them that, like, hey, you don't have to starve. Look at Thorax. Not only did he just transform into this really cool thing by giving away love, he also hasn't had to eat in forever. You don't have to starve. If you give love, you will also get love in return, and you won't starve to death. And so the changelings kind of start one by one falling into this, and like, yeah, I don't want to starve. That's all I ever wanted, is to not starve. And so they all start giving love, they all start transforming, and that causes the throne to explode, which is the explosion I mentioned. And it's a pretty cool end and everything like that. It's just really nice. I think the way they did that is a little bit better than how they've done the friendship wins laser blast thing in previous episodes and in later episodes. The queen not reforming is also a pretty cool detail. I think this is an excellent thing. However, I am disappointed that she didn't get reformed later in the series. I think it could have been an interesting thing for her to be reformed later. Maybe that's something that Starlight goes out on a mission to do, and so we see her every now and then going on that mission, learning more about Queen Chrysalis or something like that. This could have been a great way for us to learn the origin of the changelings, learn more about them, how Queen Chrysalis came to be and everything like that, and then using that to reform Queen Chrysalis. I think that could have been a great arc to go on after this series, or after this season, I mean. That's pretty much it. The last thing I want to talk about is Starlight and her arc, so to speak. Her arc, I feel like, is almost concluded in this one, and that might be why in the very next episode, Twilight and Celestia and everyone is trying to figure out what to do with, like, what do we do? What do we do with Starlight? She's basically proven herself. What do we do with her? I think what they should have done is had her go on that mission to try to find Queen Chrysalis and find a way to reform her. Maybe learn more about the changelings. Maybe that could have been her mission or something like that. But either way, I think this is almost a great... It's almost a conclusion to Starlight's arc, if that makes sense. Because she went through all of this stuff before in the past, and it's kind of come full circle. It's Queen Chrysalis and Starlight kind of have some parallels here. Basically, what Twilight did to Starlight, Starlight is now doing to Queen Chrysalis, which is an interesting parallel, and I think that's why her conclusion has come her arc has come full circle here, and it's just great. I love it. It's an excellent thing. Definitely, Starlight has more to do, more to learn, but I think her arc was basically concluded here. I think that's what this episode was meant to do, is conclude her arc. However, I'm not sure if that's necessarily accomplished in this episode. Either way, though, those are the reasons, those are the things that I love about this episode, why I love it so much, and why I think it's one of the best episodes in the series. What are your favorite episodes? What is the best episode according to the comment section? Let me know in the comment section. And if you did enjoy this, please do consider liking, subscribing, sharing, and doing all of those wonderful things like that. Because when you do wonderful things like that, not only do you get such wonderful content such as this, but you also get to become wonderful yourself. And I think we all want that. So do those wonderful things, and until next time, stay wonderful.